Hi guys, welcome to another beer review, and this is an interesting one, and it's one that I've probably held on to for a little bit too long, but I was waiting for the right moment to drink it because it seems like one of those beers that you can't just throw back because there seems to be some sort of complexity to it. And I've no idea what the base style of beer is, but it's a flavoured sort of beer, or an infused beer, which was brewed in collaboration between Mikkeller and I can't remember the chef's name, but it's in the description box, like Mikkeller X and the chef's name, because it's collaboration beer. But it says brewed by Mikkeller, flavoured by Yde, Y-D-E, and I think he's a Swedish chef, either a Swedish chef or a Danish chef. I should have actually done proper research before I did this review, but yeah, so I like these sort of like gourmet sort of collaborations, and I'm just about to do myself a nice steak with some asparagus. So hopefully I can, savour this and then drink it in collaboration with said steak and asparagus. But I know that's not going to happen. But I'm in the mood to drink it anyway, and I'm sure it'll be an interesting beer to drink whilst cooking. But yeah, so it's called C, and I can't remember which. I'm sure this is brewed for a restaurant. I'll put all of the information that I can find regarding the beer itself, the chef involved, and of course if it is brewed for a restaurant. There'll be a whole wealth of information down below. Sometimes it's actually better not to watch the videos and just click those links. A little bit of a beer tube life hack for you right there. But yeah, it's just called C, and it's a beer brewed with jasmine and orange. So C Nyhorn. I'm not too sure if the restaurant's called C or the beer's called Nyhorn. And it's not actually Keith Shaw on artwork duty, which is a little bit of a change. I'm sure there are Mikkeller beers where somebody else has done the artwork, but it's the first one that I've had that hasn't actually got that signature Keith Shaw artwork. I'm not sure who does it, but of course if I find out, they will be credited down below, because it's got a nice image to it, even though the Pink Hat Brigade that have invaded the craft beer scene might not be too happy with a siren on there, bare-chested. Yeah, I know it's a bit of a talking spot now, sexist beer labelling and stuff like that, but stuff like that to me is not a sexist beer label. Yes, it's a bare-chested, attractive mermaid, but it's not like sleazy or some of these ones you find, like especially here in the UK, in like really low rent fucking real ale breweries where it's like rusty minge copper ale and stuff like that. Yeah, there are issues with that, and there are some very sexist pieces of artwork which I think should be brought up and talked about. But yeah, it seems people have gone crazy with that whole ideology in every aspect of life, and I really do hate that. You can't say anything about anything, it seems, without someone not just getting offended, but like kicking up a big fuss, writing blog posts and being published in publications, all this nonsense, and people literally losing their jobs and going to prison just over opinions. And I think it's a very dangerous thing. Not something that we should probably really be talking about when it comes to beer, but yeah, lovely label, and you've got the same sort of label on the neck as well. Plain white crown, which is the best for the 1st of the 3rd, 2019. So the ingredients are, we've got obviously water, barley malt, jasmine pearl tea, and orange peel, and also brewed with hops and yeast. Clocking in at 5% ABV, and was brewed over in De Prof. So yeah, very intriguing beer, and I've left my actual proper bottle opener downstairs, but I'm not too bothered about destroying a white bottle cap, so let's see if we can open it using this Sink the Bismarck cork opener thing that I've had. I think this is a beer bottle opener, isn't it? It certainly does the job, but just destroys the bottle cap in the process. So I'm not the biggest fan of tea infused beers. I'm not the biggest fan of herbal tea. The closest I'll do is sort of like a rooibos tea or a green tea if I've got a little bit of a dicky tummy, because I do find that the health benefits outweigh the horrible taste with a lot of the herbal teas available. But I wouldn't be surprised if this is something along the lines of like a wheat beer, although it's not really wheat based. But you know, that's sort of territory in terms of its flavour profile. But yeah, beer in a glass, and yeah, it's got a very subtle amount of haze in there. It's got that sort of lemon drop look to it, almost like, well, it's almost lager-like in appearance. So I'm not expecting, you know, the hops to be shouting, because then that would completely override the subtleties of the jasmine tea and the orange peel. But yeah, golden, very subtle haziness to it, and the beer poured with a very healthy looking one finger white head. So it's an intriguing one for sure, and it definitely looks like a beer that you would see when you order food at a restaurant. But it is very fragrant even from here, so let's give it a proper sniff. I do get the hops in there. It's got this sort of like lovely, almost cascade, citrusy hop character. So I'm not sure what hops they have used. You're getting that sort of like earthiness from the tea. And there's that like fragrant lavender coming out. Lavender, jasmine. Yeah, it's got that sort of like fragrant tea character coming out. It's got a very subtle coriander edge to it. It is remind you of something along the lines of a wit beer or a Belgian saison, or a French saison, I should say. Those sort of characters, but not really yeasty on the nose, which is nice. Bit crisp. I'm getting that sort of almost like a Hellas lager vibe coming out of this one as well. Maybe a subtle Pilsner malt. It's got that sort of like muskiness you get with some lagers. But then there's like lovely, very subtle citrusy edge coming through in there in terms of a hop aroma. And then you do get the orange peel in there. Very, very subtle though. It's a really nice and balanced beer. Not too sweet, not too hoppy, not too yeasty, not too bready, not too savoury. There is like very subtle white pepper tone coming out of it. So yeah, you can tell there's like a lot of thought gone into this beer. So let's see what it tastes like. Cheers. Wow. It's got sort of like a jelly sweet, like confectionery edge to it almost. But not overwhelmingly so. It's not a sweet beer by any stretch, but yeah, you do get that tea character, but it's that sort of like overbrewed black tea flavour. And you get a very subtle orange peel flavour in there. Not as hoppy as the aroma suggested, which I'm actually quite glad. But yeah, that's sort of like, the jasmine tea is there. Not had too much experience with jasmine tea specifically, but I have had drinks and food with jasmine involved, and it has got that sort of like floral, herbal sort of character to it. Yeah, it's got that like almost a green tea aspect as well. The more I'm drinking it now, the more citrusy hop characters coming out of it. Not like a IPA level hoppy, but almost like when you get some of these beers where they've been dry hopped and the character just comes out a little bit more. It's got a little bit of vibrancy to it. But it's very savoury on the back end, mixing with that sort of earthy hoppy bitterness. Yeah, it starts off citrusy, a little bit sweet going in, but then the savoury elements of the beer come out on the back end. Not for everyone. It's not a really like, whoa, I need to drink all of this right now beer. But it's a lot more enjoyable and flavoursome than I thought it would be. And it does encompass those sorts of styles that I'm not the biggest fan of. but then there's a little bit of a twist to it. So it's not one of these sort of gimmicky ones where it's like, oh, we teamed with a chef, and you don't get anything out of it. It has got bags full of flavour, and people who are much better versed with not only beer, but with cooking in general, because I do like to cook a lot, and doing these beer reviews has actually helped me not only develop my own palate in terms of a beery sense, but also to experiment with flavours in cooking and trying ingredients. I've had more fruit since reviewing beer than I had in my whole lifetime up to getting into the beer reviews. So it's made me really appreciate flavour. And I think this beer is almost lost on me, if that makes sense. So it might not be fair to completely take my word for it. But I think the only thing I would say, as I'm talking now, I'm getting quite a medicinal sort of character on the back end, which is slowly building. But I could see this going really well with maybe like breaded fish or some sort of Asian cuisine, a nice spicy noodle dish. I think that would cut through with it because the fragrance of it would match well with a fragrant spicy noodle dish. But the subtleties would help like mute the spiciness of said dish. So it's definitely one of those gourmet sort of cuisine style beers, and I can see that that would match really nicely if the right palate were to say, oh, why don't you have it with this? So, you know, I'm a bit of a pretentious prick, as a lot of you guys know, but I could see people who are a lot more pretentious than me getting a lot more out of this beer. But I am definitely going to enjoy drinking the rest of it while I cook. And if there is any left, I'm sure this will go really well with that earthiness from the asparagus. And yeah, it's a nice beer. Not for everyone, but definitely worth a go if you're interested in your food pairings and your sort of collaborations with chefs and breweries. I do like that concept a lot. And there have been loads of beers over the few years that I've been doing this beer review that I'm like, I wish I could have tried that. But yeah, interesting beer for sure. Would I go out my way to get it again? I don't think so. But let's say, because I'd imagine, let's say if I ever got the opportunity to go to the restaurant, I would happily have a dish that was catered to match, or I'd happily have the beer which was catered for a specific dish, if that makes sense. But to go out my way to get it again, I don't think I would. So in terms of a rating, I'm going to give it just goes under that 7 out of 10 threshold, which for me is like, I'd instantly go out and buy another bottle. So it's a 6.5 for me, but not a bad 6.5. I just think there's stuff in there that other people would get a lot more out of it than I am. So yeah, take my word with, no pun intended, a pinch of salt. Almost tempted to just turn the camera off now. So yeah, interesting beer for sure. 6.5 out of 10. Check out everyone involved in the brewing process. Of course, check out my Mikkeller beer playlist as well. And of course, if I can find a style for this beer, because my palate can't detect what style that would be. It's just very Belgian to me. Very generic Belgian territory. So if I can find a correct style for the base beer, check out that playlist down below. And of course, if any of my friends and fellow beer tubers have reviewed it, then I'll put their links down below also. So I always seem to spend the most time on beers that a lot of people won't actually be interested in watching the review for. But anyway, that's just the way BeerTube goes sometimes. And yeah, I'm off to cook myself some steak, and I'm going to bloody well enjoy it. So thank you for watching, and I hope you bloody well enjoyed the video. See you guys later.